at the risk of invoking a cliche, so when you're doing whatever you're doing, so I'm always going in, like I'm always
into you.
Into me. So it's like coming in.
Yeah. Yeah. And the more I try to do, the more distal and efferent I am, the less awareness I have, the less connection I have to the ground, and I get lighter, you get heavier. And that's why you're like water supporting a boat. That's what we call pungjing, buoying power. If you're doing that, you're always receiving. The old saying, the ocean is the ruler of a million mountain streams because it stays below them. So as long as you can stay under, and this theoretically also enables you to do the same thing with your mind. So your awareness is constantly receiving and seeing the whole picture rather than getting attached to one thing. One of the big problems that people run into, especially in the beginning when they're sparring, is that they get attached to the fist.
Right.
See that? Yeah. Your mind just went over there. You were already winning. And as soon as I went like that, your attention went over there. Right. You went up a little bit on your toes.
That's right.
You could feel it, right?
I can't.
So as soon as I went like this, right. you went, like, I'll exaggerate, you went like this.
Yeah. And
part of you was telling you not to do that. But that's like saying, I'm not going to pay any attention to that thing over there.
Right. Right.
I mean, your mind is there. Yeah. I'm not going to be distracted by that. By what? That obvious distraction. Yeah. Right. So that's because there's that efferent thing, right, where you're coming out. Right. And that external thing where you're trying to go out and do something to somebody else. You're trying to control the world as it's changing.
So
you're playing whack-a-mole with your problems.
So to the extent, again with Morse Zen, that I am staying internal, not to negate the external.
Right.
But that I am internal, then it'll be harder and harder for me to be drawn away, because there'll be nothing there that will be of interest.
Right.
There'll be nothing outside of this that would be interesting enough to distract me.
Right. And as long as you maintain that center, then everything that is happening outside is an extension of you. So you become aware of what's happening out there the way you become aware of your pulse, or a cramp in your leg, or the weight on an arm, or so somebody has an idea out there, and you see that no longer as something that is distinguishable from you. The discernment now is not about you and that. It's how is that related to this connection to the ground? How can I take the moon going around in its orbit as being related to this? So the world becomes an extension of your awareness. And as long as you're continually going in like this, then you'll have a good relationship out there. As soon as you go like this, it's like you abandon everything you're protecting in order to fight the thing that threatens it. Right. And then it's gone. So this conflict between internal and external, between inward and outward, there's the ability to harmonize the inner and the outer. This is the goal of Tai Chi. Right? It's not to relax, it's to harmonize the inner and the outer, as Yang Zhenduo said. The purpose of Tai Chi is not to relax. Relaxation is the way that you get there. So the external power comes from going inside. The ability to respond naturally and instinctively to what's going on outside of you is dependent on your awareness of this. How does that connect to you? How do you connect this to that? How do I connect my awareness to that thing over there that seems completely dissociated? How do I find how that behavior of that person over there who isn't even looking this way, how is that related to what I'm doing? And to be able to see that, and gradually your awareness expands. In the beginning, when people are starting to learn how to move, they move their hand and it's like this thing out there. And then with practice it becomes natural, and it becomes an extension of their mind, their thought moves. Babies are it takes them a while to get to the point where they realize that, because the arms and the hands are just moving around by instinct, and they're exercising, and they're doing so much, and does not have a sense of ego, of identity yet. After a while, we start separating this from that. And when people who do weightlifting are always isolating muscles, separating them from everything else. Right. It's like when you drive a car, it's an appliance when you're learning, and you're turning the wheel and you turn the corner, and then you haven't turned the wheels back, so you keep turning and you end up in the wrong lane. And so you learn eventually to move the car with your mind, and you develop a love for the vehicle, right? One stunt driver said the problem with drivers is that they don't love their cars, they treat them like appliances. So if you learn to actually love your vehicle, if you grew up in it, you have a relationship with it, you'll be a better driver. And it's not just because you care more about not denting it, it's because you actually have a rapport with it, you have a relationship with it.
That's so, with my old Jeep. It's an 85 Wagoneer. With lots of problems, but...
Yeah. But you could feel it. One of my students is a pilot, and he was training on it was stunt planes, and he was doing a loop, and he went around and he said, "I'm taking it in," and the instructor said, "No, we're fine. Why do we keep going?" "No, there's something wrong." And he said, "What's wrong?" "There's nothing wrong." He says, "Yeah, there's something wrong," and he landed the plane. And he went and found the shortest mechanic he could find and say, "Tell me what's going on in the tail of that plane." And the instructor is asking him, "What was it?" He says, "Something felt wrong." Right. So the guy goes in, goes to the back, and if they'd done one more loop like that, they would have died. There was a flaw in the construction of the plane, so there was a piece of metal that was out there rubbing against the cable, and the cable had just a little bit left in it. He said, if you'd gone out there, if you'd flown for another 5 minutes, you would have crashed. That's flying with the feeling for the plane. So having this kind of rapport with yourself, being able to feel everything pouring into the ground. When you do the form, feeling the weight of the bones and the muscles flowing through your arms into the ground, rather than thinking about sending the energy out there to make the arm do something. You're receiving it. So when we are sparring, when we're fighting, when I'm doing this, you're not looking for the hand. You're seeing the whole picture.